Okay, this is the worksheet 8.6. We're doing number 15, and let's see what it looks like. Where am I? There it is. Okay, so we got one going across the bottom like this, got one kind of like that, and then one kind of like that. Alright, and let's get some numbers. 20 and 25 are the sides, so 20 here, 25 here, and 28's the angle, and X is right there. For number 9, it's 88. How did I get it? I didn't have to. Alright, let's do this one. Ready? We're solving for a missing side, aren't we? So we got to figure out, well, we know we're using the law of cosines, right? Because I told you. Yes. Alright, on this next worksheet, I'm not going to tell you. I don't think it's broken down into the first half is the law of sines and the second half is the law of cosines. You have to figure out by looking at the problem. Let's not go through this again. Let's pay attention, all right? You're going to have to figure out on this worksheet, are you going to use the law of sines or are you going to use the law of cosines? All right, that's what you have to figure out. I'm not on this one. I said, okay, the whole section is just using the law of cosines and that's it. All right, so it's pretty easy to figure out what you're going to do. But you have to figure out about using the law of sines, law of cosines. Let's say we wanted to use the law of sines with this. Let's take a look. Let's try to use the law of sines. Let's pretend we don't really know which method we're going to have to use here. Could we use the law of sines? Well, here's a side right here, right? And I don't know it, but I do know this angle. So far so good. So I could write x over the sine of 28, correct? But the problem is, I have to know what else. I got to know one of the angles. I got to either know this angle, right? Then I could go 25 over the sine of this angle, or I need to know this angle. Problem is, I don't know either one of those angles, do I? Right? So could I use the law of sines on this if I wanted to? No, even if I wanted to, I couldn't use the law of sines because I'd have to know one of these other angles. You with me on that? So I can't do it. And that's what you're going to have to do tonight when you look at that new worksheet. You're going to have to look at it and say, can I use the law of sines or do I have to use the law of cosines? All right, you have to determine. I would venture to guess that there's a few problems on there. I don't know for sure because I haven't done them all. Actually, I haven't done any of them. So I'm not really sure. Actually, I did a couple of them because I helped some people today in the other class. So I actually did look at a couple of them. But there might be some problems where you could actually use both. All right, so it's up to you which you want to use. All right, so on this one, though, we cannot use the law of sines, so we have to use the law of cosines. So we're trying to find this thing right here. Since we're using the law of cosines, let's write it out. Do you have the thing memorized yet?
A squared plus b squared minus 2ab
right.
cosine
Cosine of what?
C.
C, right. This is the angle C that's opposite this side C. I probably made that C right there a little too big. So let's shrink her down a little bit. All right, so that side C, this is angle C. Everybody with me on that? So up here in this picture right here, what is the X? Which one of these letters is this X? The little c, that's right, because it's opposite the angle that they give us. They only give us one angle. So that thing right here has to be the 28, wouldn't you agree? So the side opposite the angle has to be the little c. All right, so the x is the c. Make sense? So I've got x squared equals. What about the a and the b? What's that in this picture? It's the 20 and what else? The 25, right. It's the other two sides, okay? So the a and the b are the 20 and the 25. So let's put that in here. So I take the a and I square it, or 20 squared, plus b squared, which is 25 squared, minus 2, times a times b. This is my a and my b. Does it really matter what order you put those in? Doesn't make any difference because you're just multiplying them together anyway, right? And then it's the cosine of angle C. What's my angle C here? It's 28 degrees. Everybody with me? Alright, so all I did was just plug stuff in, right? Now, I just have to put that in my calculator. That's all I got to do. It's all calculator work from here. Somebody in the other class, hang on a sec. Somebody in the other class said that you didn't have to put parentheses in this situation, and you may not. You can try it yourself, but I tell you, I really like to just be careful and put a parentheses here and put a parentheses right here. You may not have to on your calculator, but I always do just to make sure. Yep, Abby?
Can you like write down the steps of
Which calculator? That one? Yeah. Yeah, we'll write them down. I mean, I'll go through them. Yes, sir. We're going to use this calculator to put these numbers in. And we'll go step by step if you have that TI-30XA. Who's using the graphing calculator? Anybody's using the graphing? I got one over here. Anybody else using the graphing? Only one person in here? Two? Is that it? Just two? Because I have like 4 or 5 in my other class that have it. But anyway, this is the one that I have. I don't have that 30XA on the computer. I don't even know if they make one. I'll have to look at it. But we'll go through step by step after we do this. Yeah.
Do you know when you use a line or person?
Well, we just discussed that. So I mean, we just went through this, and I said, could we use the law of sines? Okay, we tried to use the law of sines, right? So if I was going to try to use the law of sines, I would go x over the sine of 28, right? If I was trying to solve for this and I wanted to use the law of sines, then I would go x over the sine of 28. Well, what else would I need to know? I need to know another angle, right? Let's say we're going to use 20. So I put 20 right here over the sine of what? Do I know that angle? Don't know it, do I? Question mark. Don't know it. I got 2 unknowns right here. Can I use the law of sines in this situation? Can't do it. I don't have enough information. I need to know another angle. I need to know this angle that's opposite this side, or what? This angle right here that's opposite this side. I don't know either one of those. So I cannot use the law of sines on this. So it's just a matter of trial and error. You try one. If you have enough information that works, use that. If you don't have enough information, go to the other one. All right? So let's go back to this and put it into the calculator. And let's get rid of all that. Okay. And basically, you're going to kind of do the same thing on your calculator, except for one little part on this. On mine, I'm going to hit cosine 28. But on your calculator, you don't hit cosine first. What do you hit first? You hit 28 first, then cosine. That's really about the only difference on this. All right? There might be a little slight difference, especially with the square root. It's actually, to tell you the truth, a little easier on the TI-30XA. That's my calculator of choice to do this kind of stuff. All right? Now, when you get into more upper level math, when you do graphing and all this kind of stuff, that can't touch this calculator right here. But for this normal, everyday kind of math work, I prefer the 30XA better than the graphing calculator. That's just my particular, because I don't know, just grew up with it, right? And that's what I've always used. So here we go. Let's do this. I'm going to go 20 squared. And this is exactly what you would do if you had a TI-30XA. Who's doing this? You're practicing? You need to practice. So punch in these numbers. Plus 25 squared minus. Now again, I don't know if you really need the parentheses. I think somebody in the other class said they did it without the parentheses and it still worked. I don't know. I just like it there. It just makes me a little more secure about getting this right, okay? So there's the minus. There's a parenthesis. See that big yellow parentheses? That's why I made it in a different color, made it thick and everything. You punch that in there yourself, okay? I put in a left parentheses. And then I hit 2 times 20 times 25. Okay, now on this calculator, I just hit cosine 28. On your calculator, on that 30XA, you have to hit times 28 cosine. Alright, so on mine, all I do is just hit cosine 28. That's the one nice thing about this calculator. You don't have to go through all that. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Now, what's this yellow thing doing? It's another parentheses, right? So I put another parentheses. I close that parentheses. So on my calculator, I have a 28. I have to close that 28 in, and then this parentheses right here, close that parentheses there. Make sense? Alright, and then I hit equals. Now that's not my answer. 142. There's no way that this is 20, this is 25, this is going to be 142. That doesn't make any sense, does it? No. So that's right. What do we have to do? Let's bring the calculator back up here. We got to square root that number. So on your calculator, on the 30XA, it's really nice and easy. All you got to do, you got that number in there, right? And then all you got to do is hit the square root button, bang, you're done. You don't even have to hit second or anything. Doesn't your calculator already have a square root as one of the buttons you push? Yep, it does. So you get this number, all you got to do is hit square root and you got your answer. On this calculator, you got to do a few more extra steps. So I got to go square root of my answer. Okay, See, that number right there is what the answer is, and then I hit enter, and then there's the answer right there, 11.9. Now this is a side. Remember, it says to round the lengths of the sides to the nearest tenth, one decimal place. So I'm just going to go 11.9. So x equals 11.9. And that's how I do that. Are you getting it, Abby? What?
15,300.
All right. Well, you're not doing the steps. You follow my steps, okay? Do exact. Listen. Just follow my steps. Follow directions. Just do this. You ready? Are you cleared?
Yeah.
Okay. 20 squared plus 25 squared minus left parentheses 2 times 20 times 25 times 28 cosine right parentheses. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? You got to hit equals. I just kind of made that assumption. All right? You got to hit equals after that right parentheses. Okay? Then now you should have that number, that 142.05, right? Now you hit square root and you get the 11.9. I just kind of made an assumption and I shouldn't have done that. So after this parentheses right here, because what happens is, look, after you put this parentheses, the number on your calculator that pops up is this number right here. Okay? Then when you hit equals, then what does it do? It takes this and then actually does that subtraction with this. Does that make sense? All right, so just understand what your calculator is doing and how it thinks. Because it doesn't always think like you do, and it doesn't always think like all the other calculators think. All right, they program them differently, but after you get used to it. All right, we good with that? All right, let's clear that. Let's do another one. We're going to do the last one, right? Number 16. This is where you have to find a couple different angles. So this will be good practice. Let's draw the triangle out. Doing number 16. Just said it. Rewind the tape and count how many seconds ago that I said it, and then you asked me which one are we doing. Okay? Do that favor for me tonight. Okay? I would just like to know. Let's see. We got three sides: 17, 18, and 23. 17, 18, and 23. And we're trying to solve. It says solve the triangle, so we're solving for all the angles, right? A, B, and C. A, B, and C. Everybody good so far?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Pick which one you want to find first. Doesn't make any difference. Let's go A. All right? We'll go in order. We'll find what A is equal to. And all right, so let's see. What can we use? Well, here's an angle that we're missing, right? So is there any way to use the law of sines on this? There's not, because they don't give you any angles at all. You have to at least know one angle to use the law of sines. Sometimes you have to know two angles, right, depending on what you're solving for. On this one, you don't know any angles, so you have to use the law of sines, or law of cosines, sorry. Law of cosines. So look, this is the angle that we're solving for. So this would be what in our little formula? This would be like our what? Our, no, not small c. So it'd be the angle c, right? It's kind of be angle c, all right? So I'm going to do this. C squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of c. Now, this is just very general, all right? The c doesn't always mean this c or this c, does it? It just means the side opposite the angle that we're trying to find. That's all. All right, so this is the angle we're trying to find, so we'll call that c. So how do we write this down then? 23 squared equals a squared plus b squared. That's the other two sides. So that's just 17 squared plus 18 squared. Everybody see that? Why was 23 out here by itself? Because 23 is opposite the angle that we're trying to find right here. All right? And these are just the other two sides. You get that? Minus 2 times a times b. And then cosine of c. In this case, it's not the letter c. What is it? It's a. I mean, I could have called these anything. I could have called this x, y, and z, or p, q, r, whatever. Okay, couldn't I? All right, so there we go. So now look what we're going to do here. Now you got to watch carefully. It's really not that hard if you just pay attention. Watch. I want to get a by itself. So first of all, I want to get rid of the 17 squared and the 18 squared. They're both being added. In any algebra problem, how do I get rid of something that's being added? I subtract. So watch what I'm going to do. So if I subtract it from here, it's going to go away, isn't it? But what do I have to do to the other side? Subtract it from the other side. What about this 18 squared? Subtract that 18 squared. It's going to go to the other side like that. Pretty easy so far, isn't it? Okay. Now, what's that negative 2, 17, and 18 doing? They're all being multiplied, aren't they? So I divide. That's right. So how do I get rid of these? I divide it. Divide it by all three of them. Negative 2 times 17 times 18. You see that? And that'll go away, go away, go away. Just like that. Not so bad, is it? What's that all equal to? Cosine of A. It's not equal to A, it's equal to the cosine of A. So how do we get A by itself? Take the inverse cosine of this stuff. Alright? Tell you what. Let's do this. And this. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So watch. If I want to get rid of the cosine, Joe just said it. What did he say? How do you get rid of the cosine? Take the inverse cosine. How do we write the inverse cosine? Right, we've done that so many times, you really need to know that. Okay, there's no reason not to know that. All right, take the inverse cosine of both sides, and now we can just plug this stuff into our calculator and we're good to go. All right, let me scooch this over some more so my calculator fits. And we'll get rid of that. And what's that equal to? It's equal to A. And that's what we're going to put into our calculator. You got to practice doing that. All right, you've got to go through that several times. After a while, it gets routine. It gets just as easy as doing an Algebra 1 problem. All right, because it kind of is. It kind of is an Algebra 1 problem. Kind of, except for the inverse cosine. They probably wouldn't do too much of that in Algebra 1. But anyway, we just subtracted a couple things, divided a couple things, and we took the inverse. That's not that big of a deal. Now, here's the big deal. It's putting it into a calculator. Enter. Here we go. Tell you what, before I do that, let's do this. Let's go blue. It stands out a little against this. Watch this. I want to put a couple parentheses here. Now, if you're using your calculator, that TI-30XA, you really don't need parentheses at the top. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this on my calculator. I think it's important to do that. On your calculator, you definitely need a parentheses right here. Did you hear what I just said? Okay, you need a parentheses right here, and you need a parentheses right here. Because what you're going to do is you're going to go 23 squared minus 17 squared minus 18 squared. Then you're going to hit divide. Try that on your calculator right now. Okay, we'll do yours first, and then we'll do mine now. Go 23 squared minus 17 squared minus 18 squared, and then hit divide. It'll give you a big old number, right? It might. I don't know what it is. Is it negative something? That's fine. It can be negative something. Okay, negative 84. All right, and you hit divide, right? It figures what that is. Now, you have to put a left parentheses here. So put a parentheses, left parentheses, and then put negative 2. Now, how do you put negative 2 on your calculator? On that, you actually hit 2 first, and then isn't there like a plus minus button or something like that? Okay, hit that. It'll make it negative. Do you see that? So hit the 2 first, then the plus minus button. It'll make it negative. And then times 17 times 18, and then what's this big blue thing right here? Another parentheses, right? Now that number will give you just what's on the bottom. You got it? After you do that, now what do I have to do to get that whole thing to divide? I hit it equals. That's right. So hit equals, and you'll get some decimal number. 0.13 something? Is that right? Are you getting that number or not? You won't get negative, because if this is negative, and if you divide it by a negative, you won't get a negative. You'll get a positive. So you did something wrong. Let's start again. Ready? Clear your calculator. Punch everything in exactly the way I'm telling you, and you won't go wrong. I think the only reason you're going wrong is because you're trying to go off on your own and do your own thing. Don't do that. Do exactly what I'm telling you. 23 squared minus 17 squared minus 18 squared. It's all right here. Divided by. You should get negative 84. Is that what you said? I didn't tell you to hit equals. I said hit divide. Let's watch. 20.
Yeah, it just stays there.
It doesn't?
No,
I got
It stays 324.
Yeah, you have to
I thought you told me it came out to be negative something before.
Yeah, after you hit equals.
You don't hit
Equals
the
first, and then
you
you
the
hit divide.
Okay, you should get negative 84. When you hit divide, I'm pretty sure I tried one of your calculators today, and I hit divide, and you actually get that number right there. Try it again. Hit 23 squared minus 17 squared minus 18 squared. And then hit divide.
There, nothing happens.
Nothing happens? Okay, hit equals then. It must be, I don't know, it's the same model calculator. I don't know, maybe they make it a different year and that divide actually does something. Because I tried somebody's calculator today, one of those, I hit divided and it actually figured out what was on there. Okay, hit equals then. What's that? Yeah, so even with that same calculator, they make them different times, I guess. So hit equals to be careful, okay? So hit equals. You should get negative 84 then, right? Okay. Now you can hit divide, right? And then put a left parentheses, put 2, then that plus minus button. Does it make it negative 2? Yes. Then times 17 times 18, right parentheses. Okay? Now, if you hit that right parentheses, it gives you a big old negative number, right? Kind of big. A little bit big, right? And then, so that's just the bottom right here. How do you get this divided by this? You hit equals again. All right, you'll probably get some decimal number now, right? Okay. Now, how do you do this? Second cosine, and you're done. And that should be your answer. What'd you get? 82? Yep. Angle A is 82. Exactly right. That's what I read off. Okay? You didn't do everything I told you. If you did, you'd be getting this answer, okay? You're doing something different. Look, let's use this calculator and do it. 23 squared minus 17 squared minus 18 squared. Oh, you know what I forgot? Let's start again. I want a parentheses on mine. See the big blue parentheses? On mine, I like to start off with a parentheses right here. So let's do it again. So 23 squared minus 17 squared minus 18 squared. Close that parentheses. Hit divide. Then start another parentheses and go negative 2. See, on this calculator, you actually hit the negative first, then the 2. On the TI-30s, you hit 2, then the negative. All right? So I got negative 2 times 17 times 18. All right? And then I close that parentheses, and then I hit enter. See, that's what you got before you hit the second function cosine, right? Now I hit second function cosine. Then I could have put that answer in there, just like this, and then I hit enter, and there it is, 82. So angle A is 82 degrees. So that's one answer. So let's put that back up in here. You see what I mean? Why you got to practice using your calculator? It does. You gotta make sure that you practice. So that's 87 degrees right there. So what do you think? Can you find one of the other angles? I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's find either B or C. Let's go in order. Let's find angle B. Look what you know now. Remember what your question was earlier? How do you know whether to use the law of sines or law of cosines? We could, if you wanted to, look, are you listening? We could use the law of cosines again to find angle B. In fact, if we do this quick enough, watch. We'll do it both ways and see if they both work. We could also use a law of sines as well. Because look, I've got a side and I have an angle, right? I got a side and I got an angle that's opposite. And look, I don't know this angle, but I do know this side right here. So I could actually use the law of sines on this, couldn't I? Let's do that, and then we'll test it against the law of cosines and see if we get the same thing. Let's use the law of sines first. So we're solving for angle B. So we don't know what it is. So I'm going to go the sine of B over 18. Why did I put the B on the top? Because that's what I'm trying to solve for. Remember, whatever I try to solve for, I put on the top. So the sine of B over 18 equals, now what do I do here? Use these two right here. So sine of 87. Now this may not come out exactly the way the law of cosines because we're using a rounded number here. You understand that? It's not exactly 87, but we'll come close. Over 23. So let's do this. Multiply both sides by 18, and then we'll take the inverse sign. So it's the inverse sign of all this stuff right here. Okay, so let's plug that into a calculator, see what we get. See, it doesn't take too long. So let's go 18 sine of 87 divided by 23 equals that, and then second function sine of the answer. Okay, 51.4, right? So we'll just say 51. I think did they say 51? Yep. So angle B is 51 degrees. So there you go. So you got 51 right here. Now look, to find angle C, do you have to go through any of that trig stuff? Do you have to use law of sines, law of cosines? No. How can you find angle C if you know these two? Subtract them from 180. If I subtract them from 180, I think you get 47. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep. All right, so that's 47. Let's do this. Let's solve for angle B by using the law of cosines, just for the practice. All right, just for the fun of it. Let's go different color. What haven't we used very much? This pinky color. Let's go purple. Okay. Let's look at this. Let's use law of cosines to solve for this thing right here. Let's pretend we don't know this 51 anymore. All right. So what would I do? I would say 18 squared. See what I'm doing? I'm using this right here, and I'm trying to find this angle. Again, pretend we don't know it's 51. So I go 18 squared equals the other two sides, so 17 squared plus 23 squared. I'm going to go through this quick. Minus 2 times A times B times the cosine of what? Angle B. You watching? So watch the math. I'm going to do it kind of quick. This is about as quick as you should be able to do it. It's 18 squared. Get rid of the 17 squared by subtracting. Get rid of the 23 squared by subtracting. Get rid of these three things by dividing. Right? That doesn't take much effort, much thought, does it? So we got rid of this, this, and this. That's equal to the cosine of B. So how do I get B by itself? Take the inverse cosine of all this. Look at the algebra. That wasn't that hard at all. Okay, didn't take long. It's pretty easy, I think. Let's plug all this stuff in and see what we get. So we get 18. Let's see. I like to use parentheses here. So I'm going to go left parentheses, and I'm going to go 18 squared. Try this yourself on your calculator. See if you get the same answer. The more practice, the better you get at it, right? So don't just sit there and watch me do it. You should be doing this yourself. Minus 23 squared, close the parentheses, divided by another parentheses, negative 2 times 17 times 23, close that parentheses, equals, and then I'm going to take the inverse cosine of that, of the answer. And then, there we go, 50.8, which is about what? 51 degrees. So look what I did. I got 51 degrees by using the law of sines, and I got 51 degrees by using the law of cosines. So there are situations where you could use either method, and we just showed you that, didn't we?
Is there a law?
No, there's not. Okay? Alright, so that was kind of interesting, don't you think? That I found the same angle two different ways, two completely different ways. Alright, using the law of sines, using the law of cosines. If you wanted to, look, we can sit here all day doing different ways of doing this. You could have found angle C by using law of sines or law of cosines, and then just taken away from 180 to get 51. Right? You could have done that if you wanted to. Alright? It's up to you. But that's it. That's law of sines, law of cosines. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a worksheet. It's still 8-6, but it's page, it's the next one. It's page 39. Now remember what I said earlier. It's not broken down to where like the first half is law of sines and the second half is law of cosines. They're kind of mixed around a little bit. You have, and part of this worksheet, part of the challenge of this worksheet is looking at it and figuring out which one do I use. Do I use the law of sines or law of cosines? And how do you do that? Is there some magical formula to it? Not really. You look to see which one works. Try the law of sines. See if it works. If you have enough information, use the law of sines. I kind of think law of sines is a little bit easier, don't you? So I would try law of sines first. Okay, if it doesn't work and you don't have enough information, then go ahead and do the law of cosines. Make sense? All right, so that's what you're doing. Enjoy it.